agenda that we'll start up for January, and we hope that this year will be as productive as last year. So with that said, we'll start with our roll call.
Mr. Bailey?
Present.
Mr. Hines?
Present.
Ms. Jiggets? Present. Mr. Kelly? Ms. Lucasberg?
Present.
Mr. Thomason?
Present.
Mr. Thompson?
Present.
You have a quorum.
All right, commissioners, right now, we're gonna take a look at our minutes from our December 16th meeting. And we've had an opportunity to review those already. If there are any changes to be noted, we'll hear those now.
Motion to approve. Second.
Mr. Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Hines?
Yes.
Ms. Jiggets?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly's absent. Ms. Lucasberg?
Yes.
Mr. Thomason?
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Motion carries. Minutes are approved.
Okay. Now we're gonna take a look at our December 2014 minutes, and we'll hear those from Ms. Lang.
All right, so on your financials, on page 1 of the financials, there are no significant changes to those. However, I did add in where your cash held in escrow, Bremen and Harbor Vista, so you will know what those funds are pertaining to there, as well as your grants and other payables. I've notated which things those pertain to, as well as with the deposits for others, so you'll know what companies and groups those funds relate to. On page 2 of your statements, there are no significant changes. However, with your development properties, you can see a breakdown of all those expenses on page 3, as well as for your investment properties. You can see the breakdown of those expenses on page 4. Page 5 has the breakdown of your pool cash amounts and what's in your cash accounts, as well as and so on page 6 you can see your war chest, as well as what's going out to the local incentive programs.
Commissioners, are there any questions for Ms. Lang?
I have a question.
Okay.
In pertaining to the pool cash,
Yes, ma'am.
if you could refresh my memory on that. Now, does that pertain to the SPDA requirements?
No, the pool cash amounts are the amounts due back to the city for the expenses paid out for the quarter.
The city actually pays our expenses on a daily basis, and then once a quarter, the EDA reimburses the city. It's just a bookkeeping cash flow for simplicity purposes.
I guess the reason I raised my question, because I noticed a lot of cash going into one institution, and of course, my bank examiner hat says FDIC insured, and I know the overage comes under SPDA. Is that correct, Attorney Wilson? That overage comes under the Security for Public Deposit Act?
I do know that, I don't know the answer to that.
Okay, and that was a concern, but you know, FDIC only covers up to $250,000 in either time savings or a demand account. And so we can look into that, because that becomes an exposure in the banking institution. If Mr. Kelly is present, I'm sure he can probably clarify it for me.
And I believe we've had this discussion previously
Okay.
and have explored it.
Oh,
And obviously the outcome was that everybody was comfortable with what we're doing. I just can't recall all the particulars.
okay, well then maybe someone can.
Right, well, we will take a look at that, but the amounts that we have for use for purchases and land deals and things like that is the covered part. The other twin CDs, so they all not lumped up into one, everything is a separate entity of itself, so. But we will get a definite answer for you for that. Thank you for that question. Yeah.
Motion to approve. Second.
Okay.
Mr. Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Hines?
Yes.
Ms. Jiggets?
Yes.
Ms. Lucasberg?
Yes.
Mr. Thomason?
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Motion carries and the December financials are approved.
All right, now at this time, I will introduce, we have a couple new commissioners with us today. As we know, our Vice chair position, was vacated, and we brought on some new commissioners, so we have, and you've heard from already, Ms. Miriam Jiggets, and we also have Mr. Anthony Hines, and if either one of you would like to say something right now, we will allow you that time.
Well, I'm pleased to be here with you. I know that all those who sit at this table, we all come with the same goal in mind, and that is to make this city the best city. And I'm sure Pride and Ownership says that we already feel that way, so I'm honored to be here. I'm humbled to be here, and I look forward to working on this board.
Okay, Mr. Hines.
I echo your sentiments as well. I'm very excited about this opportunity and working together, take advantage of these opportunities for our city, make our city a better place. Look forward to working with each and every one of you through this process.
Welcome, we're glad to have you both. Our next set of new business is our election of officers. And as I mentioned earlier, our vice chair position has been vacated. Mr. Brad Hunter is going on to some other boards and some other work. So with that, our vice chair position is vacant. So at this time, we're gonna have the election of officers, and to present to the body here, we will have Mr. Dean Thompson, who is our treasurer, will move up to vice chair, and our commissioner, Mr. Junius Thompson, will move up to treasurer. So commissioners, that is the appointment, and I think we need a vote on that. So if there is a motion to approve, and a second, we will proceed.
So moved.
Second. Mr. Bailey?
Yes.
Ms. Hines? Mr. Hines?
Yes.
Ms. Jiggets?
Yes.
Ms. Lucas Burke?
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
George, I vote on this, or?
Sure.
Yes.
Vote for yourself.
You better.
Crazy if you don't.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Motion carries, and you now have new vice chair and new treasurer.
Okay, and you all, our commissioners will assume their proper seats at our next meeting.
And we will also follow up with new signature cards.
New
with
signature
the,
cards with the bank, the treasurer, and vice chair,
So, next week or two.
and new nameplates for you. Okay, now we'll move into our old business, and we'll start with the cooperation agreement at 700 Crawford Street, and we'll hear from that from Mr. Wilson.
Members of the authority, this is a request that you approve a cooperation agreement with the city of Portsmouth for the property at 600 Crawford Street. This is the old George T. McLean property, and is currently being used by the police. Has been used for a number of years by the police as the headquarters for the chief and for some other functions. Police department is consolidating at the building on the plaza, and will be vacating the building as soon as they're able to move into, will be vacating the properties at 700 Crawford Street as soon as they move into their new home. This agreement provides that the city will convey that property to EDA to be used for economic development purposes. They'll continue to occupy the property on a month-to-month basis, and I believe this is rent-free because of some other financial commitments that the city's making. Once the property has been vacated, this says the EDA shall demolish the structures if deemed appropriate or advisable by the city manager. In other words, if there's someone who wants the properties demolished, both the city and through the city manager think that's a good development project, then the properties would be demolished. The expense of the demolition will be underwritten by the city, and the sale of the property in the future, the proceeds from the sale of the property will be divided between the city and the EDA as the two parties shall agree in the future.
Which is always the way we do those, right?
That's right.
Yes,
And you may recall, this is not the first time you've seen these two documents. I think we circulated them to you in advance of your December meeting, and council took action on the cooperation agreement at their January meeting. So
Yes.
now, you're all ready.
George, you said that it was rent-free, but as it stands, there's no expense to the EDA for this, because the city still carries all expenses on the property.
And if they continue to occupy, they will also incur all the expenses.
Right, so we have no maintenance, we have nothing whatsoever, so.
Yeah, until
Moved
the,
out.
until the
Oh.
city
They
vacates.
moved out in December.
They have moved out, so this was written prior to their moving out, so
So
we're covered in
you're
this
not-
package.
So that you're now incurring expenses.
Okay,
Or you will when the deed is transferred.
okay. So the only expenses we project right now would just be maintaining utilities, correct?
Utilities
We
and
have-
insurance.
And have to keep some level of conditioning to the building, so there will be some mechanical systems running, so we're gonna have electricals. But we don't have any
But the plan is,
landscaping or exterior maintenance at this.
At this point, no, the site is almost 100% covered by concrete, since George T. McLean, the concrete manufacturer.
yes,
So, is the parking lot considered part of that?
I believe there are portions of the parking lot that are a little bit, it's nearly an acre, the two buildings and the
This
surrounding
probably
property.
runs all the way to credit union,
That's right.
from the credit union, forward to Crawford Street, and then from the county to Longwood.
so is the plan is not to remarket or resell, or is it demolition, or?
Well, it's whatever the EDA comes up with in terms of a development project.
Madam Chair.
Commissioners? Yes.
I just had a quick question about this regarding section number 5 of the agreement where we talked about net proceeds, and forgive me for, this is my first contract I've looked at. But are all of our contracts between city awarded in such fashion where there's not a set percentage set between city and EDA, or is this standard language for the two bodies?
It's been the practice for the last couple of years to have language similar to this in agreements, and the parties agree at some point, and when the property is sold. Generally, the property is held for quite a while, so this doesn't become a big issue at the time the proceeds are distributed. The city has used this in the past as really as a source of funding for other EDA projects, because the EDA has been allowed to keep the proceeds and use the proceeds to purchase other properties, and that keeps the city from having to come up with money at a time when they may not have it. And this way, the EDA can move quickly to enter into projects and become involved in projects.
Sure, I just was asking about the language.
Yeah, that's-
It's very, quite vague in terms of.
It is vague, and it's actually more.
Purposely vague, I would imagine, but
Right.
that was the question. I
It's
had.
actually more precise than it was, because we used to just leave a blank in there. We decided that wasn't good practice, so this way at least, there's a commitment to divide the proceeds at some point in the future.
Thank you.
The chairman and the mayor go out and arm wrestle together.
It's a coin toss, isn't it?
Arm wrestle.
Yeah.
I'd like to have that as a coin toss instead
Yeah.
of arm wrestle.
Okay, any other questions, Commissioners? Hearing none, I entertain a motion to accept the agreement.
Do we need to read that and the resolution as presented?
And the
Move to
resolution.
approve the resolution as presented.
Second.
Mr. Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Hines?
Yes.
Ms. Jiggets?
Yes.
Ms. Lucas Burke?
Yes.
Mr. Thomason?
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Motion carries, and the resolution and cooperation agreement for 700 Crawford Street are approved.
Thank you, Commissioners. Now we'll move to our Verdad 711 property, and we'll get an update for that from Ms. Cowden.
Yes, you were presented with a resolution in your packets for this transaction. You all have already taken all your action relative to this to this sale of property to the Burdett Group that will develop it for the 7-Eleven on Effingham. This is simply a resolution to authorize your chair to sign all closing documents. They intend to go hard on January 30th and intend to close on March 2nd or thereabouts. So this is just a formality that they need for their closing, to have a resolution that says that the chair can sign all those closing documents, but you've already taken action on all the agreements, all the terms, and what have you.
So move.
Second?
Mr. Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Hines?
Yes.
Ms. Jiggets?
Yes.
Ms. Lucas-Burke?
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Motion carries. Reso is approved for 7-Eleven.
Our next agenda item is our Victory Village update, and we hear this from Mr. Riggin.
Good morning, everybody. It's nice to see everybody here this morning. A really quick update on Victory Village. We've had several meetings in the past 3 weeks with the developers and city staff for the Victory Village project. What we are looking to accomplish is the ability for the developers to submit what would be a complete application that would reflect a different looking type of project than what had originally been envisioned several years back. That original vision had proved to be not really marketable. And so in trying to ensure that we can submit before the city a project that continues to move that section of the city forward in a way that the community and the other adjacent property owners would like to see, we've been spending considerable time getting kind of pieces of the puzzle together, if you will, that would allow us to do that. And I guess as recently as last week, their architect and partner had met with planning and development and sat down with us for several hours. And we're hopeful that they will be now able to put together a project that will be able to both meet the conditions of a full application and get serious consideration for a Victory Village project that would be a mixed-use development, retail, multifamily, medical, and some office. If the caliber and quality of that project with those varying components is something that we want to see, then the project will move forward, or will at least be in position to move forward. So we think we've made really good progress here in the last couple of months. Stay tuned.
We would anticipate the team coming in February or March to make a presentation to this body.
I would say I was very pleased in one meeting in particular, about 3 weeks ago. We had 16 folks representing each one of the partners. Everybody was at the table. Everybody had an opportunity to discuss both what had occurred in the past and where we were today. And since then, subgroups have gotten together to make those things happen. So we're making good progress on that.
Any questions, commissioners? If that's it, we'll move to our closed meeting, and we have,
Like a resolution, motion for closed meeting, if someone would move that the authority enter into a closed meeting under the provision of section 2.2-3711 of the Code of Virginia for the following purpose: discussion concerning the acquisition of real property for a public purpose in the downtown section of the city as permitted under section 8.3.
is there a motion, commissioners?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Mr. Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Hines?
Yes.
Ms. Jiggets?
Yes.
Ms. Lucas-Burke?
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
We're now in our session.
Well, the question for our outside audience was, how are we politically progressing with the casino proposal through the Richmond legislature?
I don't know.
Okay.
We've only been there a couple of days.
Yeah,
I wanna know.
No, I didn't know if there was.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's some legislation that's being heard. I think
Yeah.
there's already been one reading, and there will be a few more hearings on that before the session ends.
Do you know which one of our senators is actually running with it? Because I've looked on the Richmond page, and I haven't.
Senator Lucas has.
Yeah, I know. Besides her.
But I believe Delegates Rule has it, and there's another group from the western part of the state that have signed one too, I believe.
Yeah, so they have a couple people who are, but if you would call one of the legislative assistants, and they should be able to get
Okay.
you.
There's nothing on Richmond page. Okay.
No. Okay. We don't have any other information for, after our closed meeting, so, with that said, we are adjourned.
Just to let you all know, in case, I apologize for being late. The city, the mayor did reappoint me as your liaison and, H. Cherry.
Yes.
So instead of me and Meeks, it's me and Cherry
Okay.
going forward.
And thank you, we're glad to have you rejoin us.
Thank
Vice Mayor.
Congratulations.
Vice
Oh,
Mayor.
thank
Yes.
What do you say, man? Kiss the ring?
Yeah, right.
Okay, if there are no other concerns or questions, then we are adjourned.